Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We've got another new wireless mouse, this time from G-Wolves. This is the Hati S Plus in 4K Hertz. Let's check it out. And guys, this is just going to be a early impressions video, and one of the reasons why is when I first took this mouse out of the box a few days back when I first received the mouse, I did notice after my first game of Apex, immediately there was an issue with the sensor. Something felt off. And after my first game on stream, I didn't really know what it was. But as I continued playing, it almost felt as though there was mouse excel. My shots didn't feel right, my tracking didn't feel right, my sensitivity didn't feel right. It was almost like 400 DPI felt like 250 or 300, and it almost felt like 800 DPI was actually faster than 800 at 1200, 1400, or even possibly 1600. It was very, very strange how the mouse sensor was behaving. On the same stream, I actually swapped to the DeathAdder V3 Pro, 4K Hertz, same USB port, everything literally almost the same, except of course a different dongle as well as a different cable. And the Dave, I had absolutely no issues immediately 1v3ing fights, throwing up 3Ks, and absolutely beaming and feeling back to my normal self on the Dave. Knowing that there was some sort of an issue, but not really knowing what it was, we did have a collaborative effort to kind of resolve the issue on stream. We updated the firmware, downloaded the software. Updating the firmware actually did help resolve the issue, but there was something still very odd with the way that the mouse was behaving during fast tracking movements or just steady aim long range in Apex. And with the continued help of those in chat, the recommendation was actually made to try different USB ports. And Colossal on YouTube was actually also having the same or similar issues. Actually kind of a different issue. His mouse was actually behaving a lot more erratically than mine. But we did resolve the issue at least somewhat by changing the mouse to a different USB port. Now I don't really feel as though there is that massive issue with mouse excel. The DPI feels normal and everything is actually feeling good. And you can see in the clips here, this is one game of Apex, that everything seems to be behaving back to normal. So I am going to get a lot more use of the mouse in game to see how that feels, to see if any other issues happen with subsequent firmware updates, or if the sensor actually becomes better with additional firmware updates. I have a feeling with the massive amount of complaints that they have received, I'm sure they are working on investigating into the issue and seeing if there are any other fixes that can potentially be done to make the experience even better. Right now, again, I am using a USB 2.0 port, and things seem to be working fairly well. And I do think that overall, the mouse actually does feel quite good. So I do want to give you guys a shape comparison to other small mice on my desk, and just give you guys a generality of how the build quality is, because it's actually quite good. I do like the shape. I think the clicks feel good, and everything just from a weight and weight balance perspective doesn't feel all that bad. So let's get into that, and then we'll have the final review in a few weeks from now. To get into how the mouse feels in hand, the mouse actually feels very good to me. I like the shape. The coating's not bad compared to a lot of the mouse offerings on the market that are now releasing with 3395 sensors. Getting into what's in the box, you get your typical envelope with most G-Wolves products, and it does come with quite a bit of goodies, including a lot of additional skates. You get the default skates here, 2 sets, and you also get a set of dots. In terms of how you turn the mouse on the bottom of the mouse, this is actually the only area of the mouse where I have some build quality concerns. The bottom of the mouse actually is very easy to flex, and you can kind of hear it creaking. And it is a little bit of a concern with how badly it flexes. But of course, you have absolutely no reason to be hitting and pushing on the bottom of your mouse. When you are pushing down on the mouse and kind of digging into your mouse pad, the thing that is going to hit in terms of the surface area is not going to push inward. So I don't think it's going to affect your sensor performance in game. In terms of how you turn this mouse on, you actually get this little blue toothpick tool here, and you'll see there is a little hole here, and you actually have to get inside the mouse and push the button either left or right for on and off. You do get what kind of looks like a somewhat forward sensor placement. I did not feel any difference in game in terms of sensor placement. My copy actually is 50 grams, and the thing that's kind of interesting with the mouse being at 50 grams, the larger mice like the Dave at 63 grams, the Lamzu Atlantis at 55 grams, and my Viper V2 at 59 grams all three of these mice actually feel quite a bit lighter to me in my hand than the G-Wolves Hati S Plus. And I think that's because the larger shells actually have that weight distributed and dispersed through a larger surface area, making under the hand feel quite a bit lighter than the Hati S Plus. You kind of feel that condensed 50 grams in the Hati S Plus get whipped around, and it makes it feel a little bit heavier to me than the Death Adder V3 Pro, the Lamzo Atlantis, and the Viper V2. Be that as it may, the weight actually is well distributed, and it does feel very good at 50 grams. And I think it puts it in a sweet spot in terms of comparing it and adding it to the small mouse market. You can see it next to the Starlight 12 Small and the Pulsar X2 Mini. I love actually all three of these shapes. The HTS Plus feels really good in the hand, just like the Starlight 12 and the Pulsar X2 Mini. I think if I had to choose my favorite shape right now, I would probably lean towards the Starlight 12 Small. This is what I actually main right now with the grips and getting that additional width that I needed. It's kind of just like your default vanilla type of shape. It's not anything that's too aggressive with a hump like the Pulsar X2, and it is a little bit flatter than the HTS Plus. Now, if you don't like that flatness, you're going to enjoy the Hati S Plus. It actually is quite a bit more hand-filling, kind of like a G Pro Superlight, and that effect of having that greater height that rolls up and then downward on the mouse. The comfort grooves on the left and right side feel great. The mouse is wide enough for my large hands that it feels extremely good in game. And I do think that I perform very well with it now after the fixes, at least well enough to a point that I don't really feel like I am losing any performance benefit if you're looking for a new small mouse. I think the shape really is great. In terms of build quality, I know that there are a lot of people that have issues with the clicks on the Pulsar. Hopefully in the future batches, that issue will be resolved. I have not had issues with my clicks yet. You can hear they are extremely crispy, very, very nice. And the switches on the Final Mouse actually are very light now on the 10s edition with Kale 8.0s as well with that magnesium. Two very good small mice. And I do believe that the HTS Plus actually does use different switches than the two mice we just looked at. This has zippy 60s, and the switches here actually do feel very good, tactile, and responsive. I think the switches feel great. The only thing, of course, would be I just have a little bit of push travel on mouse 4, which is rather typical on a heck load of a lot of mice. If there are continued issues with the 4K Hertz polling rate and dongle, I could certainly say that you guys could always look at downgrading to the 3395 sensor in the Ace edition. Certainly no issues with the performance in that one, I would hope. And you will be getting a pretty awesome shape and a lot cheaper than the 4K Hertz. In terms of 4K Hertz, I used 4K on the Dave, I used 4K on the Viper, 4K now on the Hati S Plus. It feels good, but it's not some overwhelming benefit where I feel like I am just getting juiced up on roids and getting a performance enhancing effect that will extend or excel my performance to new heights. It feels good and you feel it, but once you get adjusted to 1000 hertz, again, it's kind of just something that you become accustomed to, and you just kind of develop this natural performance to whatever polling rate that you are on. I think going from 140 hertz or 144 hertz to 240 is certainly a much greater impact on my gameplay than going from 1000 hertz polling rate to 4000 hertz polling rate. But getting back on track to the comparison to the other small mice, I do think that the most hand-filling mouse is going to be your HTS Plus. If you're somebody who prefers a little bit more palm contact, I would definitely say to check out the HTS Plus shape over the Pulsar X2, as well as the Starlight 1210 Small. I can say that for just pure fingertip or pure aggressive claw, I do think that the 10s mouse and the Pulsar X2 feel a little bit better for those purposes than the HTS Plus 4K. But I do think that you can achieve both of those grips. I think the mouse is small enough, even though it is more bulbous and more hand-filling than something like the 10s as well as the Pulsar X2. I do think that those grips work as well for the HTS Plus. So another very versatile grip-wise mouse in that small mouse category. And something that for me, being a little bit more hand filling, I actually enjoy owning this shape. I think that it feels very good next to the 10s, next to the Pulsar X2. And it feels a lot different enough to recommend that if you're interested in that, or if you want something different, something a little bit new, you are going to get that with the shape of the HTS Plus. So build quality happens to be quite good. My clicks feel great. My side buttons feel great. I just have a little bit of post travel on mouse 4, which is pretty typical on a wide array of mice. I think everything about the switches, the scroll wheel, the side buttons, everything happens to feel quite good. And again, as I am pushing my mouse into the pad, I don't feel that flex on the bottom of the mouse, which is the only area of concern that I had. So I do think that build quality wise, shape wise, weight distribution, I do think that they have a lot of things going for it. I just hope that, again, that 4K compatibility is strong into a point that it is consistent and we're not going to run into issues in the future. And after about another 2-3 weeks of use, I will update the review and give you guys my final thoughts on that 4K implementation here on the HTS Plus. So guys, I am signing off for now. I will keep you guys updated. Make sure you guys pay attention to a lot of the comments, the feedback with that 4K hertz pulling rate. See what people are saying, see what issues people are having, and just make sure before you pay that extra premium that everything is okay. Right now, for me, it feels as though I'm there, but I do just want to make sure that I am at that 4K hertz pulling rate, that everything is going to remain consistent, and I'm not going to have issues with that implementation. If it helped, guys, please leave a sub to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next review. Peace.